like, there we go. That's how you start the show. It took forever for this StreamYard thing to put us in live. By the time it did, the opening video was over, so I just played it again. So for those of you who watched maybe the tail end and then watched it again, that's why I did it. But welcome to a live episode of Strong Style here on this Saturday morning, at least where we are on the West Coast, at least a couple of us on the West Coast, but a happy Saturday afternoon for those of you there on the East Coast as well. We're going to talk about all kinds of things happening in the world of professional wrestling. I am the Outlaw John Rocha here, joined as always by these two gentlemen here. Aaron Turner, how you feeling there in Orlando, brother?
I'm Sammy Guevara, and welcome to Jackass.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, at least you would take Conti. The Darkitect himself on 3 hours of sleep for the last few nights. How are you feeling, my friend?
Sometimes you have to just embrace the madness, embrace the void, embrace the chaos, and, stare face to face with your own mortality. That's what I'm doing this week. Netflix is a joke.
Yeah, that festival Netflix's joke is happening over there with the Hollywood Bowl. How many more nights do you have left on that thing?
We are rolling until May 8th.
Wow.
A lot of big shows coming up. I mean, got 2 more Chappelle shows. Kevin Hart's doing Staples Center. I refuse to call it the crypto, whatever the balls. Bill Burr's doing the Forum.
Wow.
We got Schumer doing shows, Chelsea Handler, Pete Davidson, you name it. If they're do comedy sometimes, they're probably in this festival.
Incredible. Were you able to get Matt Nost a 1 a.m. slot or 2 a.m. slot maybe on this?
He wishes.
All right, well, let's get into professional wrestling here. We're talking about all the stuff that's happening. We have some big news that has been coming down over the last few days here about the state of women's wrestling. There's a lot of comments going on this week from Becky Lynch, from Ember Moon, from others who've been chiming in about how certain federations and promotions are approaching women's wrestling, where it's at right now. We're going to have a big old discussion about that. We're also going to talk about AEW Dynamite results. We're going to get into some stuff going on here with Raw and SmackDown, at least whatever stood out from us from Raw and SmackDown, to get into that as well. Some Impact contracts are expiring. So are we going to see some of these people in AEW, in WWE in some way, in NXT? Who knows? And of course, speaking of NXT, the cuts that happened this week as well. Dakota Kai leading the way of the names of the surprising cuts here in the WWE on the NXT side. So we're going to get into all of that. And a reminder that Streamlabs and SuperChats are open. And hey, I haven't been on much this week because I've been at CinemaCon still recovering from that. So, send in some support, send in some love to make up for a little bit of the time we lost this week. We'd love it from you. The Streamlabs address is pinned in the chat. It's also there on top of the screen by Aaron's head, and it's in the description of this video. All right, Aaron, take it away, my friend. Where are we at first?
We really needed like a musical intro for the State of Women's Wrestling Summit. As you know, I do recognize the irony of 3 men talking about women's wrestling and athletics. I understand the irony there,
sure,
but it's a way to talk about many topics at once, and we had a lot going on. So let's before we get to how we can fix things, let's start here with this Ember Moon interview that she did with Chris Van Vliet last week. Ember Moon, aka Athena, was in with Chris Van Vliet this week, and she had a lot to say about her departure from WWE and most recently NXT. And a lot of stuff. Let me get to this one. The one comment that everybody's like, the headlines are about, which out of context sounds really terrible, but in context kind of makes sense. So let me go to it here. Let me find it. Okay. She was talking about, she was talking to her makeup artist, and she said, "I'm just so unhappy.
Yeah.
We have to sit through stupid meetings about how we would have to dress sexy." And I remember looking at someone else and laughing and saying, "I cater to children. I'm not about to wear fishnet booty cut butt cheek shorts just because we had a 2-hour meeting on how to dress like Mandy Rose. That's not fair. Not everyone is going to be Mandy." And that seems to be like where everybody like cut off, like the headline. But the rest of it is as follows. Mandy is absolutely phenomenal. She's an amazing person, but not everyone is Mandy Rose. I started seeing this downslip as soon as Hunter was gone. And for the first little bit, we didn't know why he was gone. We just know he wasn't there, I got so angry, and I remember sitting there, and I was thinking I did nothing wrong. I didn't piss off Vince. And then she went on to further talk about how it was pitched to her to do some teaching some classes at the PC and doing some mentoring. And she felt like, that wasn't her place to do that because she's a wrestler and she's not here to train other people to essentially take her spot.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff here from Athena or Ember Moon. What do we think of these comments?
Well, I mean, I think the Mandy Rose thing makes a lot of sense, especially on the heels of what we saw. What was it in the one of those documentaries you saw recently? Maybe Dark Side of the Ring with his don't know. Vince, when he's got a pretty woman in the ring, is very clear. Don't hit the face, not the face, anything but the face. And so that's been his mantra. And we see Mandy Rose, who's a mid-card wrestler, really a middling wrestler, getting this kind of a push. We see it happen with Liv Morgan. A lot of people find her attractive. She's a mid-card wrestler. Becky is one of those women who combine both. Alexa Bliss can combine both. You could argue Sasha Banks, of course, Bayley, others who people find attractive but can also wrestle like crazy. But on the other side of things, you see what Ember is talking about is that if you're not at that level where you need to be showing off more skin, where you can wrestle at the level that maybe showing off more skin is your way of getting attention, getting looks, getting whatever. But I think it's also kind of a bit of a disservice because then you're essentially implying that these people aren't as strong. So let's just use other things to get them over. And I tweeted this out and I said, any federation, any promotion, any league that is making its female talent. And Ember Moon said that a lot of these women were not comfortable with it, did not like it, that they were told by the WWE to reveal more skin in their outfits and in their clothing. If you're forcing or using your female talent to sell sex over your product, then to me that's an issue. But WWE always does this, right? Two sides. They talk out of two sides of their mouths. Don't be a bully, but let's have our heels do bullying, homophobic, anti-women at times, sexist promos on the other side. And then you got here the same thing. Let's promote our women, but they better be wearing as little clothes as possible so guys can go crazy about how hot they look or try to have fantasies about them. So it's an interesting, two-faced approach to things that is really unsettling for me to see, especially in 2022. I get it. In the past, it's always been that way. We've seen that. We've seen that certainly during the Attitude Era. That was all over with the bra and panties matches. But they've made such a concerted effort to walk away from that. So are you telling me you're doing this now? She said this after Hunter left. All of a sudden, these started being the demands. Are you doing this now because your product is failing? And so you're desperately falling back on the lowest common denominator approach to promoting your female product. I find that to be fascinating. In the same week that Becky Lynch said their roster destroys AEW's roster in terms of female. So that's my 2 cents on this. What do you think there, Chris?
I mean, I just think it was kind of two warring ideologies when Hunter was around making decisions. For Vince McMahon, he's always at his best, I feel, when he has a good filter. Like, Vince McMahon's the guy, like, even if you look at the history of things in WWE, Vince has never been an amazing booker, I would say. He's an amazing promoter. Right. And he can take a good idea and polish it in a way to make it bigger. He's like Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy don't make beats. Puff Daddy don't, rap. You know what I mean? He doesn't do any of these things.
Good, yeah.
He takes a product and he's like, oh, I can make this huge. I can make this bigger. I can make this more than it is at the moment. That's Vince McMahon. And he's a genius at it. Created WrestleMania, created, the ideas of the WWE network and all these things, these future forward things. But also Vince is an older, he represented an older guard in not just wrestling, but society at large. And I think that his views are very outdated and very sort of not as progressive as we would like. And the proof has been in the pudding. An unchecked Vince McMahon hires, fitness models and, cheerleaders and, other people who had no interest in the wrestling business prior to here's some tryouts to make some money, at this thing that's not a real, athletic competition per se. Meanwhile, when you look at NXT and what Triple H was trying to do, we get the 4 horsewomen. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's these two warring ideas. And I think that, to your point, John, it was more, amenable to Vince McMahon because it's like, okay, these are 4 attractive women. Mm-hmm. The fact that they can go in the ring is inconsequential to him. Right. But that's how it, sort of ends up. And now that Hunter he doesn't have that influence in order to sort of filter what Vince McMahon wants to do. we have what we have, and that's why you see got people like Carmella and, like, to your point, Liv Morgan and all these people who have more of a a sexual tint to what they do, get more attention than people even like a Doudrop, or even when like Nia Jax was there, or Tamina, who's still there currently, like when their wrestling gear is like them like covered up from head to toe.
Right.
You know what I mean? When they don't sort of fit this traditional mold. So I think that's really what it is. I think that it's been a through line through the company for a very long time, and it needs a filter of somebody who has a more progressive ideology. And WWE, it's again, to your point, it's so hilarious because they'll ironically pat themselves on the back for things like that are genuinely good, like oh, you've never seen women's wrestling before in Saudi Arabia, and you see how inspirational, literally in real time, that is to a lot of the female audience members who are just like can't even believe they're getting to see women be this strong, have this much autonomy about themselves and compete and perform and this, that, and the other. Like it's like one hand is sort of trying to wash the other, but they need that strong voice, and right now Vince doesn't have it.
Yeah, and the thing is, and we want to get clear for the women who do enjoy, taking sexy pictures, doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's part of embracing your power as a woman, owning your sexuality, controlling who gets to expose you, who gets to see you in what state of undress or dress that you would like to showcase. Certainly, Sasha takes a number of sexy pictures on her Instagram. Alexa Bliss doesn't do that, right? And I think this is fascinating to me because I think that a part of this, as I think about as Chris was talking, is this one of the reasons Alexa is hesitant to come back? Is this one of these reasons? Because Alexa is always very uncomfortable about how much she showcased herself. She's very clear. You don't see her doing all the sexy photo shoots that WWE like to do with all these other women in the past. She's very kind of demure about it. And so maybe this is also an element of where I don't want to dress sexy. I mean, we see Becky now wearing these, shorter trunks that you can see her butt cheeks out of. You're seeing more of a sexier approach to this, and how many of them are really embracing it because they want to and how many aren't. And according to Ember, there aren't many that did. And to me, that's walking the lines of, sexual harassment or some kind of exposure there. And there's a reason they're not unionized. I don't know how much HR is involved in WWE with situations like this, but if old white men like Laurinaitis and Pritchard and Vince are over there without buffers trying to tell young women what they should be showcasing themselves, this needs to get exposed like crazy. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this? Are we both idiots and feeling this way, or what are your thoughts?
I think in Ember's case, she's talking more about NXT than the main roster because,
fair enough.
Like I said, like I texted you guys earlier this week, I said, just watch the first 10 seconds of NXT this week. Just watch it. Like if you saw it, it was a zoom in of Nikita Lyons, like up and down. That was the first 10 seconds of NXT 2.0.
An old XFL shot from the cheerleader up into
there you go. And I was just like, okay. But the thing is, like, I just want to say this, like, it could be both. Like, you can be a woman that wants to show whatever you want, and you can still kick ass. Like, you can totally be both. But I think there are lines. Like, I've had a lot of talks about Carmella, and I'm just like, Carmella's not even wearing gear. She's wearing lingerie. Like, it's not even close anymore. Right. And I'm just like so confused by that. Like, how does that fly? How does that? I don't know. But like, and again, like the pictures thing, like Zelina Vega takes a lot of pictures, and she has her gear covers her pretty much from head to toe. Like it can be both. I think in Mandy Rose's case, and I swear to God, I'm not defending her because of stuff, but I'm just saying, like, she's playing a character. She's playing a character.
She's doing, exactly.
Her character is Black Widow sex pot. Like, her thing is, let me be super sexy, and then when someone gets close, I beat the shit out of them or something like that. Like, that's the whole deal. That's the toxic attraction bit, right? So she's just playing a role in that sense. I don't know why she singled out Mandy as opposed to other people, because we've seen the Nikita Lyons bodysuits, and like there's a difference between a Nikita Lyons bodysuit and a Doudrop bodysuit. It's a little different, and stuff like that. So I think you could definitely be both. I'm sorry that Ember felt like she was being pushed out by WWE. I saw a lot of people coming after her, and I don't understand why. She's just expressing how she felt and how she was treated. I know she had some injuries. I know that probably was part. I don't think they exclusively wanted to make her a coach. I don't think that's part of it. I think they probably didn't have anything for her at the moment, and they were like, "Hey, let's do this." And I feel like they were going to move her back up to the main roster because she doesn't fit in NXT 2.0. Yeah. And she even talks about that. Like when they lost Shotzi, when Shotzi went to the main roster, she was kind of lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Dakota Kai in a minute, but it's like Ember Moon was on her way to becoming a world champion in the WWE, and they didn't put it on her. They pulled the brakes with her and Bayley at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And she went back down to NXT, did her thing, and she kind of got hurt again. And it was like, can we really put this much stock in Ember Moon? I don't know what it is. Part of me I think it's like 5% sour grapes and like 95% like I'm frustrated with this place. So
yeah, just
take that for what it's worth.
Well, another part of this, I want to bring this up, another quote, and I know we got to move on to the rest of the stuff here, but she said, towards the end there, she had a bag that she bought when she started to understand how unhappy she was being there, and kind of had it sitting there in the corner for like a month in her mind, already kind of preparing for leaving at some point here because she wasn't happy with the game. And she said, it didn't matter how she said, this isn't about wrestling. This isn't about the art that we create in the ring. This is turning into everything that I left on Raw and SmackDown. As you said, talk about NXT. You could just see the pity parties started forming in the locker rooms and the jealousy and the cattiness. Well, why is this person on TV and she can't do this? And I was just sitting there and I was just like, I'm an adult. I can't deal with this high school bullshit. And I'd be like, guys, it's okay. And I'd be that locker room leader because if I didn't, it would just go into the negative zone and no one would be able to have any type of positivity. And everyone would hate the job we all work so hard to be at. So very interesting points of views there from Ember. And this is the way it is in any performance business. The idea of pettiness and pity parties, this all happens. The high school bullshit all happens in any. I mean, all of us have at least if not a big connection to the world of entertainment, at least a somewhat tenuous connection to the world of entertainment. And we've seen or heard or dealt with people who have been envious or catty or pity. I mean, like in the Schmodown, it happened all the time. Christian used to tell me all the time about how many of the players would come up to him and complain about they're not getting enough TV time. Some people being favorited. They're not getting the matches, even though they'd lose a bunch of matches in a row. They'd still be like, why am I not getting more matches? Like, you fucking lost. And so it's just these kinds of things where people think that if it just put me on TV, I can do this, I can do that. But if you're not getting over and the fans don't give a fuck about you, you're not going to get far. And so these are the things that were happening. And you see this happening in performance stuff all the time. And her saying the high school bullshit, this is what I think sometimes people who own these leagues want. They want, federations, promotions, whatever. They want people to like fight amongst themselves because it keeps them from focusing on what's actually happening, which is people in charge are not understanding how to better utilize everyone on their roster, on their staff. And so we see that here with what Ember Moon is talking about as well. So this is a very toxic culture. It sounds like from what she was saying. What do you guys think?
It's a rule that happens in humankind when there's scarcity of resources and opportunities.
Good point.
I have tons of friends who work at, Saturday Night Live and other TV shows and things like that. And there's only so much TV time. Yeah. There's only so many sketches that are going to make it. There's only so many, things that are actually going to be on TV. Sometimes they film the damn sketches and it still gets cut. And so it's like, I feel like that's what it is in pro wrestling. It's like, look, Raw is too long as it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? And SmackDown is only a couple hours. Nobody watches main event or whatever the hell else, whatever programming that they have that's ancillary out there. So when you have a finite amount of television time and there's only going to be 4, maybe 5 women's segments at most, and you already know Becky got to have one of them, Charlotte got to have one of them, Ronda Rousey got to have one of them. Now everybody's just like scrambling for the scraps that are left over, and it's going to create that kind of, toxicity and, it's like a horrible Darwinistic experiment that happens, when that's the case. But I think that's where a lot of those like secondary comments from her came from. because everybody's fighting for scraps.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I think that let me just say this so we can move on. But like,
Yep.
I think that if you make that some sort of mandate, like suggesting maybe you should dress sexier, that's fucked. Like
Yep.
that's completely fucked.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of remember the movie Knocked Up when Katherine Heigl's talking to the people at E,
Yeah.
and she's like, "So you're telling me I should lose weight?" And they're like, "We can't say that. Maybe tighten." It's like, I would say tighten.
Right.
It's like maybe he's like maybe you get a treadmill and maybe you lose 8 pounds, but I'm not telling you to do that. Maybe just tighten. That's kind of what it feels like. It feels like we're doing that. So
yeah, and
that's
it's weird. I mean, Jeremy's comment's interesting. He says, "I do give NXT 2.0 a lot of credit for being the most female-driven show right now."
100%.
Sure, but if the females are driven because they're looking a certain way, then to me, you're kind of confusing the message in a way. Look, this is the only way you can get ahead by showing skin. This is the only way you can have a female-driven show by showing skin. And I think that's not the right message to be sending overall, in my opinion. But, other people probably don't give a shit. I'm one of those people that does. And people coming after Ember and people coming after, I think, was
Tegan Knox.
Tegan Knox for saying that kind of stuff. Can absolutely go fuck themselves because they don't know what it's like. They don't, and I'm sure it's majority, almost all men. They have no fucking clue what it's like to be objectified in this way or being forced to show certain parts of themselves in this way. So it's just kind of ridiculous. But we'll see where Ember goes from here. I mean, and it's just kind of crazy to think now it feels like Triple H was a big feminist because he really tried to showcase the product over trying to make them look a certain way. And I don't know how Stephanie kind of balances this. It's really kind of weird. It's just very strange to sit down and I would love to one day like get her super drunk and let her tell the real truth about what is going on and her actual feelings. Let the walls all come down.
Okay, that could have taken a turn. I'm glad you
I
clarified.
just mean like, people are more open when they're a little inebriated or altered and they're more willing to tell their truths. And I think that, I'd love to hear what Stephanie actually thinks here between her father and Triple H. And this kind of talk and the stuff that's going on with Triple H, I'm starting to believe more and more that he is going to, at some point, appear someplace else. I'm just feeling that. Just throwing that out there. Anyway. All right. Let's see if we got any Streamlabs that have come through here. And we have one from John Alexander. Thank you, John. He says, not surprised at all by the comments. Even back in the 1990s, Vince wanted everyone to be Sable, who did things even Sunny wouldn't do as far as how she dressed.
Yep.
He has always loved his blondes. Yeah, and I remember China, the rumors were China left because they wanted to force her into some lesbian storyline that she didn't want to be a part of. So this idea of using women in certain ways, certain, yes, for sure. And Empire Fan 1980 did say, hey guys, more WWE releases at this point. Why would you go there if they're just going to release you anyway?
We're going to put a pin in that one.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that and come back to it. All right, Aaron, where shall we go? And please keep sending in your Streamlabs super chats, people, as we go along.
So we got a little, I just want to bring this up real quick. Billy Kay, Peyton Royce left Impact Wrestling this week. It looks like they will continue to do their modeling and OnlyFans. So they are gone from the wrestling business at the moment. So there you go. I don't know if anybody cares, but there you go.
Moment of silence for you, Aaron.
I turned on them, John. I've turned on the Iconics. I'm sorry, guys. I've turned on them ever since Peyton Royce said, like, when Vince came to her with a night, like, said, what do you do for fun? And she said, I don't really do anything. I just sit on the couch and play with my dogs. It's like,
no,
what the fuck? Anyway, moving on. Hopefully they make a ton of money. Anyway,
right.
I do want to mention we just talked about NXT and how all that stuff happened. And now here comes the contradiction because WWE featured 24 different women on NXT this weekend. Yeah. 24. Yeah. How the fuck? How? Amazing. I'm not saying they had 24 women's matches, but they had, Nikita Lyons and Natalya and Cora Jade and Lash Legend were in segments. And like we had vignettes of people coming in and Tiffany Stratton was involved. We had just 24 different women. It's fucking wild that they did this. I don't usually think that WWE gives the rat's ass about what AEW does most of the time. I think this was a stick it to AEW segment. I really think it was a show where they were just like, listen, you motherfuckers, like you could do and say whatever you want, but here's 24 women in your face. Like, and they did it effortlessly. Like it didn't feel like it was gratuitous. It's just like, okay, well, this makes sense. Like we're building for something here. And I got to tell you, man, like we didn't talk about this last week, but Tiffany Stratton, like she could easily have been just another blonde. Yeah. It's fucking amazing against Saray. Like I am I am on her bandwagon. She was awesome. So shout out to Tiffany Stratton for kicking ass.
Yeah, Chris, we saw a lot of young talent, up and coming talent. What do you take away from so many women being showcased here in NXT this past week?
My takeaway is that it kind of bolsters the point that we were making. WWE could feature more women if they wanted to. They did it. They showed it. And to your point, Aaron, it was relatively effortless.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it took a whole lot of thought to make it happen.
Yeah.
So, I'm not one of those people that's just like, oh God, let me just like clap it up for them and what they were able to do. It's like, why don't you do this all the time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's you can easily make equal time for your male performers as your female performers. And I just kind of hope that they keep it up. Now, in fairness, and I think someone even in the chat said the vast majority of were like kind of more or less a lot of green beans in there.
They were.
But, still at the same time, especially on the main roster, when you got people like Asuka returning, Bayley's coming back soon, but the women of the caliber they have on the main roster, no excuse not to do this type of thing more often.
Yeah, they're gearing up, man. They're gearing up. Plus, I mean, they just announced the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament, which is probably why there was a lot of green stars on there. But still, like people have been clamoring. There's been like a lot of online clamoring for the Mae Young Classic to come back.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that again because of all the different companies out there, AEW and Impact and stuff. But this is a good way to get it. This is kind of like a smaller Mae Young Classic. And I think they're doing that. And man, like the way they've been pushing Roxanne Perez or the former Roxy.
Yeah,
dude, she's special, dude. She really is special. And it's been really good to see what they're going to do with her. I can't wait.
We're going to have to get Booker on the show.
For sure. I want to hear him talk about that.
Yeah. Gilmore has been promising us Booker for a bit. And congratulations to Brad and Booker, who have now expanded to 4 nights with their ESPN show. So shout out to them. It's a great expansion for both of them. Up and certainly guys that are hitting into the stratosphere for the stuff that they do. Clearly, must be a lot of audience, or they wouldn't expand it to 4 nights. So shout out to Booker and Brad for their success there. But showing the greener talent is a good way to get people to know them. As you said, Aaron, right before a tournament comes out, people have been talking about an Evolution tournament again for quite some time. And, people talked about the ratings. And the thing is, you got to keep doing it. Ratings or not. I mean, there's some bad ratings for fucking, Vengeance or these other pay-per-views that you have. Why not just keep powering this through and keep supporting this idea? And as these women build and grow and gain an audience, if they can main event WrestleMania, you'll watch their Evolution pay-per-view. I think this is the things that I thought that's been a mistake in the past from WWE that they need to rectify if they're really in the business of promoting women's wrestling. Because they give men multiple opportunities to sync pay-per-views and to make mistakes, and they keep coming back with the same iteration of the same pay-per-view every year. Why did Evolution only get a one-off and that was it? I think that was really unfair and sent the wrong message to women's wrestling overall. So maybe this is their way of gearing up and using it. But Chris makes an excellent point that they can do it if they want to. And I think we're in a state now in 2022 as a populace that this idea of like, hey, let's have a blacks only match. Let's have a Latinos only, a women's only. I think we're kind of done with that as being like, let's celebrate ourselves for doing this shit. It's no, make it consistent, make it all the time. Just to make another SmackDown reference, a couple of black patrons of mine were upset that there are only black categories in the SmackDown. No, throw those movies into all the general categories. Those need to be a part of it as well, not just black only categories. So that kind of thing, I'm seeing the change in the mentality from a number of people about how we approach this stuff. The tokenism being moved out so that all of it is equal and you're required to watch all of it, or at least asked to watch all of it. So I think that's a good thing down the road. So we'll see how that turns out. In the Evolution, I only see it. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself. I see Evolution more as a kind of a promotional thing for your newer talent to get people to know it. So that's what I'm saying. All right, where are we going to go next there, my man?
All right, we're going to talk about the another big one that hit this week. Becky Lynch talking about AEW. Let me get to this quote about Triple H first, because we were talking about that. She wanted to make this comes from, I got to give them credit here. This comes from Featured Cut of the Day from Wrestling Inc. for the transcription. So here we go. When talking about Triple H and NXT, she said, first of all, Triple H never treated us like we were any different from the guys. Always made sure we were represented on NXT with great stories, with time and opportunity. And it just grew from there. And it was a spark. I think once we proved that we were capable of hanging with the guys, we were capable of stealing the show. It just shows that people out there should be no difference. There's no reason that I'm not the main event. And there's no reason that we are not getting stories and not getting the time, not being in the position to entertain the crowd in the way that we have been the past few years. So that was one statement. Mm-hmm. Good stuff there from Becky Lynch. But it goes on to be asked about if AEW's women division pushes her to be better. She said she does not think that's the case, simply because she does not think AEW women's division is as good as WWE's. And she said, and I quote, "So I wish I could, yes, but unfortunately, I don't think they're represented the way that we are. They don't get as much time as we get, and frankly, they're not as good as we are. Certainly on Raw, we have the best women's division in the world. I say that without any hesitation in my voice. We have the best women's division in the world. Competition is great, and it's great for there to be another place. And I have a very good friend in Ruby Soho over there. I would love to see her as champion one day. I would love to see her getting the spotlight that she deserves. Competition is always great, but over here, we are on another level right now. Man, we are on another level." So what do you think of Becky Lynch's comments about the AEW women's division?
Let me run through the Raw women's division here. Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Doudrop, Liv Morgan, Maurice, Nikki ASH, Queen Zelina, Rhea Ripley, Tamina. I mean, it's hard to argue that she's wrong. Not that, and there are, you've got Alexa, you've got Asuka, you've got Becky, you got Bianca, Rhea Ripley. Those are all above the line, in my opinion.
Sure.
And then you've got a second tier here that includes Carmella and Zelina and Doudrop and Liv Morgan and Maurice, of course, who's been a former champion, but she's older now. Nikki ASH is in that tier. And then you got a lower tier with Tamina and maybe a couple others like Dana. But you can't argue that the top 6 or 7 absolutely decimate whatever AEW has on their roster. And that's just Raw. So, I mean, she's not wrong. But then again, comparing AEW to WWE, I think is a very difficult thing to do because AEW doesn't have the resources, doesn't have the training or the coaching, and it doesn't have the experience as the company to be around for multiple decades to establish this kind of pedigree yet. But they're building, and they're building quick. But certainly their women's roster is one of the biggest complaints people have had about AEW for sure. But with Deonna Purrazzo coming in, with other people coming in, and with all these people getting released, Dakota Kai, Ember Moon, there are possibilities for that roster to catch up really quickly to the WWE Raw or SmackDown roster. What are your thoughts on this, Chris, and Becky's comments?
It's ironic that an earlier analogy I made was about Vince McMahon and Puff Daddy and the way that they sort of make things bigger and, elevate them on a certain level. Because, I mean, I probably haven't, I don't think I've spoken on this show. I love AEW.
Yeah.
I love independent wrestling. I also love underground rap music. It ain't the same thing as fucking mainstream rap music. Like, I love Griselda and Benny the Butcher and like people like that. They ain't Drake. They ain't Lil Wayne. They're not. It's just, it's levels to this game, baby. And we've seen it happen in AEW, even on the men's side of things. They're every, Dynamite's great every week and it's so good. And look at the work rate and blah, blah, blah. Then CM Punk showed up and you immediately saw the difference between good wrestlers, great wrestlers, phenomenal wrestlers, out of this world wrestlers, and a superstar.
Yeah.
Different levels to this thing. Look at how Cody Rhodes was a big deal in AEW. He's a much bigger deal now. Like, much bigger deal. And all I can think about is, as much as I think Thunder Rosa is incredible, I think Serena Deeb is great, Sheeta, many number of people on the AEW women's rosters. Can you imagine if Becky Lynch showed up on Dynamite?
Yeah, I mean, please.
The game changes.
Bayley shows up on Dynamite. Any of them show up on Dynamite, again, such a different level. Charlotte Flair, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about here? Like,
Right.
I think Becky was, even though, she's kayfabing and she's being, her character the same way that Seth does a lot of times when he takes his pot shots at AEW. I mean, yeah, she's speaking truth. They're definitely just, you can't, what I always say? It's like episode 1, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Towards the end, the rebels are like running through the corridors, blah, 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 blah. And then there's my man, the fucking, why can't I think of his name? The Sith Lord.
Darth Vader.
No. Episode 1.
You're talking
about Darth Maul.
Darth Maul.
Yeah.
And he's not even worried about the motherfuckers with the blasters. And Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan kind of step forward and like, you guys go handle the other shit. This ain't for you. This is not about you. This is an A and B conversation getting ready to go down, and you're only going to get in the way. And that's just kind of what it is. That's kind of what it is, WWE's women's division and AEW's. And not to say that there's not room for opportunity to build them and all that, but I think that even someone just brought up Britt Baker. She'd be a puppy in the WWE.
Oh my God.
An absolute puppy.
They'd be carrying her through matches, the top women. And
they had the opportunity to sign her many times and didn't. So
absolutely. So, facts, which it's such a through line, which makes it even worse that they don't get featured as much because they're such a bigger deal.
And Becky's not even the best female wrestler on the roster, to be honest with you. She's the greatest character on the roster for sure. And she can wrestle like a mofo in the ring, but she's not even the best of them. And that should tell you the level of quality you're dealing with and with those superstars. Aaron, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I wanted to make a point here. Like I've seen it a couple times in the chat even today. It's saying that Impact has the best women's wrestling division. I pulled up, I know most of them that are in there, but I pulled up the Impact women's roster here. There is not a single one, maybe Deanna, that I would trade for any of the top tier WWE women. There's not one. Like, there's some talented people here, like Mickie James, Hall of Famer, of course, she's great. Madison Rayne, Hall of Famer in TNA, like Lady Frost, she's good. Jordan Grace is kind of a wild card, like we don't really know.
She's still building.
Yeah, she's still building. And then you got like Giselle Shaw, Havoc. I wouldn't trade any of them. And then you got Deanna, who's the standout. Chelsea's already been let go and gone and very injury prone, so I wouldn't do her. Alicia Edwards, like none of these people I would trade for anyone on the WWE roster outside of Deanna. That would be it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this comes from. I think that Impact Wrestling Women's Division is treated with the most respect out of all of them, even Raw and SmackDown. I agree with that, but they do not have the talent that they used to have. So let's not front. Like let's not play, And
Aaron, let me add something to your point real quick. You're not going to get better wrestling people who are on the same talent that you have, same level that you are.
Yeah.
As Chris was saying, like this is a whole nother level with Punk. It's a whole nother level with Becky Lynch. You playing in college ain't going to get you ready fully for playing in the pros. And coming into the pros, it's a whole nother level. And that's why a lot of college graduates or college people make the jump wash out because they can't handle that jump. Some can right off the bat. Most can't. And so there's the difference. You get better playing better. That's the game here. And you get better as a wrestler, wrestling better wrestlers as well. Sorry, Aaron.
Well, hold on. I'm seeing the chat here and they're like, big names don't mean better workers. It's like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the top tier wrestlers in WWE, are they not good wrestlers? Like Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, Bailey, are they not great wrestlers? Bianca, Rhea, like you can't tell me like dollars to donuts you would trade one straight up for the other. No fucking way. Like you're lying to yourself. And what's funny is you said earlier about like training in AEW. You know who trained a lot of those women in NXT and WWE? Serena fucking Deeb.
Yep.
So why is Serena Deeb helping them, or is she just kind of doing, I don't know, she doing her own thing? Because that's somebody I would bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Serena Deeb and Sarah Amato were trainers. I think Sarah Amato still trains with WWE. So that's something that I would do, but I don't know.
Well, it's like Magic. Magic's a great player, but was he a good manager?
No, he's horrible.
Yeah, exactly. So I think some of the top talent can't train, And some of the great trainers can't reach the level of top talent. They're just great trainers, right? Molly Holly was a fantastic trainer, never a big bona fide number one Becky Lynch kind of superstar. Natty, the same thing. She may argue this all she wants till she's blue in the face. She was never a Becky Lynch or a Charlotte Flair or a Sasha Banks kind of level of talent. Yeah, Trish Stratus, Alita, she wasn't. She was close, but she wasn't. And I think sometimes most of the time trainers aren't at that level. It's a reason they train. They're that good. They understand the game, but they can't quite reach that level, And to be fair, the ones who are at that level don't have time to train other people into the level that trainers do, because they are in demand for all over the place. So there's the difference there, in my opinion. So, like, what's his face? Bill DeMott. Give me a fucking break. Bill DeMott never smelled greatness, man. Come on. They're just, most of the trainers aren't quite they've never reached that level.
Hugh Morris? Those that can't do coach, right? That's the old adage, right?
It doesn't always apply, but it does apply most.
Jim Harbaugh, subpar quarterback in the NFL, but pretty good college. It's somewhat good college coach.
Fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah. So, all right. Anything more on this? I mean, I think Becky. I want to add one more quick thing. Get you guys quick thoughts on this. Is this Becky going overboard a little bit? Like, we've seen this second iteration of Becky Lynch feels a little. How can I say? What's the word? Unpredictable. Sometimes she feels like she's on it. Sometimes it feels a little too real, like there's shoots going on here. A couple weeks ago, Aaron mentioned how she was on the couch there at post WrestleMania on that interview where Sasha was totally cool and chill. Becky seemed a bit off. In the back and forth with Asuka on Raw seemed a bit off. And then here making these kinds of comments. Of course, her husband has made a number of disparaging comments at AEW's expense. So do you sense this is a little more real, a little less of her character, or this is more of her character? What do you guys think?
I think it's a mixed bag. What I mean? I think that Becky is given a lot more carte blanche than a lot of people on the roster to what she says, and especially how she handles herself on social media, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes people drunk with power do a little bit too much, and I think that that this is probably the case with Becky a little bit, but usually she's pretty pitch perfect, when it comes to a lot of her comments. So they can't always be hits.
True. Fair.
Yeah, just a little character work. No big deal.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Anything more to say here on this status of women's wrestling?
Get rid of the women's tag team titles. In all organizations, they are completely useless and have never been presented as anything more than useless.
Fair enough.
I just think it's...
Yeah, how do you fix things? What do you say there, Chris? How would you fix things?
I disagree about the women's tag team titles. I brought up, last week about how great Sasha and Bayley's run was when they were going to every single show.
That's true.
Dominating everyone. Yeah. I just think, with most things in wrestling, if it's presented seriously, you can make it work. I think that what needs to happen is that there needs to be more storylines that aren't always centered necessarily around the title, that aren't centered around relationships, especially with the male wrestlers. I think Becky versus Asuka is a great example. Two great workers, no titles on the line. There's history there. There's a story. We're going to get a good feud, and it has nothing to do with the world title. It has nothing to do with anything else other than a personal issue between the two. That's really all you need. Great performers, good story, and more than one at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be simple here, but it comes down to just better booking. And I think you have to start moving women into the booking positions for women's wrestling. Women are going to understand how to find the nuance to promote or to create storylines that other women, female fans, are going to connect to at a base level, at a visceral level themselves. They're going to understand the little asides, little comments, little questions, little actions, that facial reactions that you can make that feel real and allow you to suspend your disbelief as you watch these storylines play out. So to me, old white men should not be booking this shit. Get women in here, women in their 30s who have a little more life experience and understand how to play this stuff, understand how to book this stuff out. That's how I would change women's wrestling, my personal opinion. Just like we're seeing more and more women involved in every facet of entertainment in our world, there needs to be now breaking that glass ceiling of women being involved, not just as trainers, not just as assistants, or not just occasional contributors to storylines. They should be the people out there dictating female storylines for most part in these federations. That's just my 2 cents on this thing.
The only caveat I would add to that is we need women's wrestlers to be in these positions.
Yes, agreed. That's what I mean.
Your point earlier about Stephanie McMahon's feelings like that, we got to remember at one point Stephanie was in charge of creative, and that was when we got a lot of the hot lesbian action and other weird ass, you know what I mean? And it was just like, wow, there's a woman booking this shit, and it is beyond the pale, not necessarily that progressive. So women who wrestle, let's get them in some of these positions where they can make some decisions.
Yeah. I mean, they got Molly Holly, but I don't know if she's anything outside of an agent. I don't know if she's in creative. So
you need a female Russo, man. You need a female.
No, fuck off. Don't even start that.
I'm just throwing it out.
Don't even start.
Sis. Is she gonna say sis a whole bunch?
The reason I said Becky Lynch. Yeah, I would like to see that once. Empire. What do you say there, Aaron?
A gabagool. Hey. Tony D'Angelo. Hey.
Empire Fan 1980 says the only women wrestler I remember from Impact was ODB. Oh, I remember ODB. If you can't teach. So, John, when will you teach someone from Schmodown? I don't know what Schmodown is. If you're going to make a joke,
probably Schmodown.
Spell it correctly, Empire Fan.
Man, I've never Empire Fan always hating each other.
He loves it. Some people need that smoke. But I taught a lot. Did you see us almost win the faction title last year? How the fuck do you think that happened, pal?
You're retired. Stop.
I'm just saying.
Don't get worked up. You're retired. Don't get worked up.
John Alexander sent a couple Streamlabs here. Let's read them real quick. He said, I think as far as in-ring, WWE has better women, but as far as overall treatment, it's about the same. AEW fights have one 10-minute match. They have one 10-minute women's match, while WWE has 3 4-minute matches. Neither are great. Yeah, what do you guys think about that? Is that a fair point?
Yeah, it's a fair point because, but also I have to say this: I would much rather watch a 3 to 5 to 8 minute match between Sasha Banks and Rhea Ripley than I would rather watch Jade Cargill and Marina Shafir go on for 10 or 20. I'm good. So it kind of depends on quality as well. But yeah, I agree. The time of women's matches lately, like on SmackDown, Ronda wrestled Shotzi for a minute and a half. I was like, fuck this. And I hated that.
Yeah, that was bad. Shotzi getting served up. What do you think, Chris? Any difference between these two?
I mean, the ebb and flow of pro wrestling only works when it's given enough time to invest. And if you're not going to do it, like it's a waste of everybody's time, honestly.
So you'd prefer the 10-minute match over 3 4-minute matches?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Unless to Aaron's point, it's just like super quality. And also there's a way to use the short match to further something. And then as opposed to, well, look, we got a women's match or, whatever. We got a match. It's like, that's not enough.
Right. Roberto Arsenal says, speaking of rappers, shout out to Action Bronson. His new album came out this week. It's great. And he delivers nice wrestling references throughout many of his songs. Hook comes out to his song. Oh, well,
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Hook does. Yeah, great. I don't know Action Bronson. I'm sorry. I'm behind.
Oh, man. The Baklava Don. Shout out to Bronson all day.
Come on. It's good stuff, Aaron. All right. Let's keep moving on. And ladies and gentlemen, please keep sending in your Streamlabs super chats here. We're in the last 30, 45 minutes of the show. So send in your stuff and send in your support if you enjoy the stuff we got going on here and the things we're talking about today. All right, Aaron, what are we off to next, man?
Puff Daddy would say, don't worry if I write rhymes, I write checks. Okay. We're going to talk about the NXT talent cuts. There were 10 talent cuts. I'm just going to kind of harp on the main ones here. We had I think a referee and some developmental talent that were released. Yeah. So for me, the ones that stuck out were Persia Parada, Dexter Loomis, Malcolm Bivens, of course, the manager of the Diamond Mine, Harland, aka Parker Bordeaux, former UCF football player, and mini Brock Lesnar, and Dakota Kai were released. In the case of Malcolm Bivens and Dakota Kai, Bivens apparently his contract was up earlier this year, and he just was a nice guy and extended so they could keep doing the Diamond Mine thing. So I think Bivens was just gone. no matter what. And I also read further that Dakota Kai apparently was not looking to renew her contract either. So it's not like they just singled her out and was just like, you're out of here. So thoughts on these cuts and any surprises there for you?
I mean, Dakota Kai is the only surprise for me. But Chris, what about you?
I mean, I'm very surprised about Dexter Lumis for sure. I mean, they invested a lot of time in him, you know, on NXT, and he has us like, it's not about you know, good looks or what necessarily all the time. Sometimes you just need a look, and I think that Dexter had a very unique thing about him that he had going, and you know, one of the few like sort of inventive new characters that they had come up with in quite some time, I thought, with Dexter. Then it went silly with all the, you know, wedding stuff and all that. But like, look at that fucking guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's a good wrestler too, man.
Yeah. And she can go. So yeah, I was very surprised by that. Obviously surprised by Dakota Kai with all the work that she's put in. But I mean, if she wasn't staying anyway, it makes sense. But it's always the timing with WWE that always seems bizarre, where it's just like, all right, things are happening. Oh, by the way, we just let go like 12 motherfuckers. You're like, hey, what? Okay, I guess, you know, all right, cool. I guess we'll make do with what's left over. It always just seems bizarre, especially when it's like you have 3 separate rosters, you know, that you need to service with talent, and then just on a random Thursday, it's like, here's half of them gone.
and here's 24 women on NXT who are going to take these slots for sure. Yeah,
that's a kick in the head. It's the old rule of Office Space, like, right? You learned you should probably fire people on a Friday. It's best for no repercussions come. So that's probably what happened. But yeah, I mean, like, in the case of Bivens and Dakota Kai, it's a little different. But I look at somebody like Dexter Lumis, like Chris was talking about. Dexter Lumis has done everything they've ever asked him to do. Yeah. We need you to be like this psycho that doesn't say a word. He did that, and he did it perfectly. Yeah. Okay, we need you to be a little bit more goofy with, you know, Indy Hartwell and Johnny Gargano. And he did that perfectly. And then it's like they didn't know what to do with him after Gargano left. And they were like, well, I mean, we'll just put you, I guess, with Indy and see how that goes. And it hasn't really gone anywhere. They've had just goofy segment after goofy segment. Yeah. So that sucks for him. Dakota Kai, the same thing. Like, everything they ever asked Dakota Kai to do, she did it and did it fine.
She made it work.
Yeah. You want to be the bubbly Kiwi that comes in there, then she was that. We're going to turn you heel. You're going to turn on Tegan Knox. Nobody saw that coming. Right. You know, we're going to make you awesome. We're going to make you Diesel. We're going to make you Sean to Diesel with Raquel Gonzalez, and then she ends up being the fucking Jannetty. So it's like, it's like, what happened there? But I just think that Dakota Kai is just, I think she's great. I think she's uber talented. It sucks that she's leaving. I'm sad that Bivens is leaving too, because Bivens, if they had done Diamond Mine the way that I think it was originally supposed to be, it would be completely different. But it just hasn't worked out. Yeah. And I would rather see, a lot of people were pitching that Bivens should go to AEW and manage like Jade Cargill. And I was like, oh, fuck. Sounds awesome. But I think he'd be better served in a place like AEW. Like, I think he fits better there. Not that he didn't fit in WWE, but they don't put stock in managers. They just don't. Yeah. So I think Heyman is basically it. But it's just like every time they have a good one, like even when Zelina Vega was good, we talked about that like last week. Yeah. They just get rid of it. So I think Bivens was like, he was never going to be, they were never going to put him in a top tier management position. So I get it. And Persia Parada, I mean, she's young. She's got time to go somewhere else. So, and it kind of stinks because she was getting a lot of TV time too. Yeah. So it's like, what do you do there? And the Parker Bordeaux or the Harlan thing, I don't get that at all. Like, you got a guy that was coming in, looking like the next Brock Lesnar. Right. And apparently from what I read in the dirt sheets, he just wasn't performing to their liking. And in that case, I get it. Like, you've got more people coming in, you got more people you got to train, but that does happen sometimes. So it sucks because they're like big names that you didn't expect. They're like, okay, well, obviously they're doing something with these people. It's like, no, sorry, they're gone.
Right. You know, and Dakota Kai, I think, was for me the most notable one here. But if you say she left on her own volition, that for me, that adds even more credibility to what Ember Moon said in the interviews. maybe Dakota just kind of hit that wall where like, I don't want to keep doing this shit, this high school shit. If you're asking me to dress even sexier, like it's not my natural point. I want to go someplace where I feel respected for what I can deliver in the ring and what I can deliver on the mic. And so maybe there's another place for her. And look, I'm saying there's a lot of female talent roaming around out there. And Tony, who's been a guest on our show, needs to open up the goddamn checkbook and hire these women into the roster and absolutely elevate the amount of women's wrestling on his fucking programs and create some fun programs. I mean, you've got Jay Lethal fighting Samoa Joe again. 14 years we've been watching these fucking guys battle each other. So why can't you bring in Dakota Kai to take on Ember Moon? Why can't you bring in these, like, there are already built-in storylines that wrestling fans know that does all the work for you. So it's a quick jump. Just sign them and get them in there, and let's start creating TV time for them. Instead of trying to sell me take Hunty. I'm just throwing it out there as the possibilities because that's the way you elevate the women's wrestling. Yeah, will it reach WWE standing? Not right now, but bring in great talent so that they can challenge the younger talent to get even better that you already have on your roster. That's the smart move, in my opinion. But Tony,
I think, and don't be surprised if Chris, you're going to say something. Sorry. Don't be surprised if when Ronda Rousey is done this time around, or maybe sooner, Shayna Baszler's gone too.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Oh, Shayna at AEW would be.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised.
Shayna versus DMD, sweet Mary Mother. Shayna versus Thunder Rosa would be balls out. Great.
Yeah, I'd be in for that.
All right, see, we've got any Streamlabs super chats come through. Yes, a couple of him. Justin Toner says, "Hey guys, sad to see Kai and Bivens leave, but don't blame them for not resigning. AEW Dynamite is coming back to Rochester, New York on July 6th, and my best friend and I have our tickets. I can't wait. And AEW got to stop the hot potato treatment of the TNT title." Gentlemen?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So.
Okay, fair enough. Christine was, hey, Christine, thank you so much. She says, "Hey, guys, sad about Persia being cut. I was at hers and Grayson's last Australian show, and knowing her potential, it's a shame to see her go. Anyway, just came back from a night out and happy to listen in live." Well, thank you, Christine.
Same.
Wait, where are you? Are you in Australia? What time is it in Australia? I wonder. And then Adrian saying, "Hello, gentlemen. I'm upset at Dakota Kai being released from NXT. I thought she would have been a great women's world champion. Wow. Who do you think is next in these WWE releases, if there's any more anytime soon? Thanks." What do you guys think? What's the answer there?
I that's one thing I hate speculating on. I never want to see anybody like lose their gig, man. And you know what I mean? So it's always been like a kind of a personal thing with me. Like obviously I'll fantasy book all day about a lot of stuff, but who's gonna lose their job? I'm always kind of like,
yeah, I'm gonna push on that question. I don't like it either. I know it's like a lighthearted thing you were asking. We don't want anybody to be fired, but
right.
I think they'll take a close look at the women's division on the main roster. I think I'll just leave it at that.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, all right. I'm looking at the roster. I don't have as much hesitancy as these two do about it.
Rocha has no candor.
Yeah, no.
Fire these motherfuckers.
I've been fired and I've been hired. And that's the game and that's life, and especially in a performance way. So, but I don't know. I think they're thinning where the fact that they showcased 24 women, that tells me that maybe they are already kind of trying out other people to take certain slots that are in their minds there to be taken. I don't know right now. I mean, I have a thing about Indy Hartwell. I feel like Indy might be going some at some point. Remember, she's got her own thing that she was involved in, but with Candace and Johnny kind of out of the picture, I feel like Indy is, what's the point of Indy right now? So I don't know. Just throwing that out there as a possible next one for sure. But Nikita and Gio, is it Gia? I think they're safe. Gigi. Nikita and Gigi are pretty safe.
Of course,
I would say. All right. Luis Enrique de la Pena says, "Good morning, fellas. Why do they let wrestlers go when the problem is their creative or writing staff? Have a great weekend." It's a good question.
Budget cuts.
Yeah. Right. Budget cuts.
Yeah. I think it's just a matter of, does it fit with what we're going for? And if we cut them, there's always a feeling that they can get them back somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's one of those things where it's like there's some great examples of people who are given bad, well, maybe like subpar creative that makes something out of it. Like the greatest example I always give is New Day. When that gimmick debuted, it was like, what the fuck is this even? Like, they're like praise dancers at like an AME church. Like, what is, it's like all this gospel stuff, and what? And they made it work.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? I remember when WWE trademarked Happy Corbin, and it was like, oh, what is that supposed to be? And it sort of worked out. You know what I mean? Like, so I think in their minds, a lot of times it's, I mean, well, even if the creative isn't great, if you give it your all, you can make something out of it and get over.
Right.
And so while we may objectively look at it and be like, that is terrible booking, or that's a terrible name change, or you're not setting these people up for success, I think in a lot of the WWE creative circles, they're just thinking like, well, that person didn't make the best of it, so they got to go, and then it comes down to that.
Fair enough. Okay. Thoughts on this, Aaron? Any thoughts on this?
No, I mean it's just the company bullshit line. Like they just don't have a spot for you at the moment, so it just is what it is.
Creative is where you want to be. You rarely hear about creative people being fired. Writers get fired all the time. Creative is a different animal, and so you want to be a part of the creative team versus the writing team. That's for sure. So, Christine says it's 3 a.m. Well, thank you so much for staying up with us at 3 a.m., Christine. Wow.
Bless you.
Hooroo, as the Aussies might say. All right, Aaron, let's move on to our next segment here. What are we talking about?
All right, I'm going to collapse this one. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but I'm going to collapse it. We're going to go straight to AEW Dynamite. We're going to talk about that. So here we go. Going to read the results, and we'll talk about that. Dax Harwood defeated his partner Cash Wheeler in the FTR Civil War to qualify for the Owen Hart Memorial Cup tournament. CM Punk versus Hangman Adam Page is now official for Double or Nothing for the AEW World Championship with moving graphics. Thank you, Tony. The Blackpool Combat Club defeated the Factory. Wardlow defeated Lance Archer, and MJF implied that he will face Big Cass next week on AEW Dynamite. Cass coming back. Serena Deeb defeated Hikaru Shida in a Philly street fight. The Undisputed Elite of Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and the Young Bucks defeated Brian Pillman Jr., Griff Garrison, Dante Martin, Shotty Lee Johnson, and Brock Anderson. And in the main event, Scorpio Sky once again regained the TNT Championship by defeating Sammy Guevara in his trademark ladder match. And it was, I'm reading that Sammy Guevara may have suffered back and shoulder injuries. If you caught that, the TikTok that I posted about that, nasty fall for Sammy Guevara. So what would you think of AEW Dynamite?
Please, Chris, thoughts?
I mean, another solid episode. With the role that FTR has been on recently, I mean, first of all, I thought it was a stroke of genius to book them against each other.
Yes.
While this is happening and while they're having this moment. Because it's kind of like it's the best way to keep the streak going right at this time, because there's not really another team that's like teed up for them necessarily.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's put them, have them do a singles, but let's do something where we're featuring both of them at the same time doing singles without having to do two separate singles matches. So thought it was a stroke of genius booking. The two guys can go. Love the Bret Hart references and love, even though, Bret Hart, obviously, I guess at this point is not going to be in AEW anytime soon. So great way to open it. Great booking. We all knew Dax was going to win. And yep, we talked about it last week. Wasn't very much excited about Adam Page, CM Punk necessarily until they finally became face-to-face. And now I'm like terribly excited because it has all the elements that make a main event pro wrestling title match great. Two guys who've been built up, two guys that we've seen have very visible wins on television.
Yeah.
Two guys that are credible, and two guys you're like, I don't know who's gonna win. You know what I mean? I really, I'm not certain that I can just immediately pick what's going to happen. It's not a Roman Reigns situation where it's like, he's going to win. You know what I mean? And so it's very exciting in that regard. Come on. What am I going to say about the Blackpool Combat Club that we haven't already? Interesting thing with Wardlow, where I can't remember if it was Cornette talking about this or Conan, but is it a good idea that Wardlow is just like beating up these giants week in and week out when MJF is not that guy? Like, does he look as credible to go up against Wardlow? You know, because it's like, okay, yeah, fucking, what's his name? The Murder Hawk is huge. You know, the week before that, the Butcher, huge.
Yeah.
MJF is not a tiny man by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not a beast like these guys that he's beating. And is that, or maybe that's what they're going for, where it's like MJF's the shit heel who's like, oh my God, he's killing these monsters. And what am I going to do? You know what I mean? And so he has to become more devious. Is that the storyline? So maybe that's it, but I think they're still building it the right way. I feel kind of sad for Lance Archer because he is really being relegated to that role of like the credible guy that is used to put people over. And I think there's much more to him than that.
He's the Cesaro of AEW, man. That's what he's
absolutely.
Becoming. That's what he's becoming. Yeah.
You know, look, call me a shill for my friend. Call me whatever you want, a mark, blah, 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 blah. I've heard all the talk about Cass coming in and keep Enzo away from it. You are making a massive mistake. A massive mistake.
Agreed, man.
Tony Khan, if the first words you hear are not Enzo on the microphone when Cass makes this debut, if it is indeed Cass, which we're pretty sure it is, right?
Yeah.
Massive mistake if he is not the one working the microphone to set up this match when it happens next week. Yeah. I mean, huge. So we'll see about that. Serena Deeb versus Shida. This the last time they had a match was what, months ago at this point or something like that?
It feels like they do something every week to me. It feels like they're always in each other's face.
It feels like they're always involved, but it feels like they haven't like had an opportunity to capitalize in a physicality way with one another in quite some time. So I think I think we kind of need to have a blow off between the two of them and like, you know, kind of move on to something else. Both are great. Both have proved it. Obviously have chemistry. Can't be Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn every fucking week. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like we gotta move on. Undisputed Elite versus, you know, the group of basic people. Yeah. You know, again, good match, entertaining match, pretty inconsequential. You know, I like the Undisputed Elite t-shirts. What can I say? Yeah. You guys are lucky I forgot about what you said last week about t-shirts. And then the main event, I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't know I don't think I've decided how I feel about the hot potato TNT championship.
I don't think it's that important, so I don't care. Like I
that's
don't
the
care.
problem. You don't care.
Well, fair. Yeah, I just want to see great matches. I don't give a fuck who has it.
We didn't really get that either.
It's the like the US title. It means nothing to me. It never meant anything to me. I don't care who was wearing it. It's just a fun belt to fight over. Great. Give me great matchups. That's all I care about. And I thought this was a fucking fun match, especially when they pulled out the barbed wire and the ladder. And when Shivani asked JR if he'd ever seen like that, he said, I grew up on a farm. I saw barbed wire and I did see ladders, but I never saw them together. So I thought that was great. I thought that was genius.
That's great.
So, to me, I thought that was an excellent match. I thought Tay Conti came off well. I thought Paige Van Zandt came off well. And Conti's kick to the balls felt way too real, man.
A little stiff.
Yeah, it was a little stiff. But yeah, sorry, Chris, didn't mean to cut you off. What did you think of the match?
No, I was just like, oh man. I mean, we've talked at length about the fucking weird chances that Sammy's willing to take.
He
I
almost
don't understand.
died.
Like come on, man. Like, Jeff Hardy's right there. Like, take a hint, take a lesson, take some advice. You cannot do this on a regular basis on free TV. You want to take, I mean, you know, I remember always the stories about Charlotte Flair and how she always wanted to do the top rope moonsault to the outside of the ring every match. And Vince McMahon, the agents were like, save that shit for a pay-per-view, and not even any pay-per-view, an important one. Yeah. You know what I mean? Don't, like, why are you attempting this every week? Because it's the law of diminishing returns, and you're putting yourself at risk for no reason. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you did the move only to drop the belt to fucking Scorpio Sky. Like, you know, take care of yourself, Sammy. We want to see you around. We want to see you have these good matches, and you're not gonna do anyone any favors if you're on the shelf, because you ain't Steve Austin, who's going to be cutting promos with a broken neck and making us more excited to see him return. So if you're laid up, brother, you know, we can't appreciate you. We can't enjoy you. So protect yourself, man. Yeah. Make smarter decisions in the ring. You're a good enough wrestler that we don't need to see you take these chances all the time. And the injuries are starting to pile up, man. And let me tell you, as somebody who's played sports his whole life, that shit catches up to you, dog. You know what I mean? I barely go to the lane now in pickup ball because I just can't take the damn punishment. You understand me? Like, I got basketball in 45 minutes, and it's going to be a lot of jumpers, as John will tell you. Okay? So, you know, protect yourself, man. Be smart. Yeah.
I camp out in the lane, and even me, I have a hard time taking it nowadays. It's for sure. Real quick, because I don't want to talk about too much, but yeah, the Harwood Cash Wheeler match. I want to share the screen real quick, see if I can play this for you guys. Somebody put it together on Facebook, showing the homages to. Can you guys see that?
It says click to exit full screen.
Oh, all right. Yeah, this is. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay,
enough.
There we go. The homages here to the Bret Hart versus Owen Hart match from WrestleMania 10. Just incredible stuff that they were
Bret
showing.
and Benoit.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah, look at that. I mean, just great stuff by them. So it was so smart to put them together to have a little fun with it, for sure. And overall, I thought it was a good Dynamite for sure. I thought Punk and the Hangman Page make it official. Great back and forth. Punk coming out in the white T-shirt, just dropping his bombs there. Blackpool Combat Club decimate. They didn't defeat the Factory. They destroyed the Factory. So I don't know what happens there. Chris, I take your point on Wardlow, but I think what they're trying to do is showcase Beast versus Brains, right? And that may be the thing. They're going to build him up so high that it looks unbeatable. So when MJF does beat him, it's even more shocking. And it's even more of a feather in MJF's cap, and it's their way of maybe, because they know Wardlow is there at least currently for the long haul, but with MJF, he's been making comments about possibly leaving. How do you keep a guy satisfied? You elevate him even more than where he's at right now. So maybe that's how they're setting this whole thing up. And we'll see if Cash shows up. And I agree with you, man. Enzo's been on our show. You guys saw him. Enzo was here, a month ago? He was great. He was fantastic. He looks like sounds like a completely different person on a whole nother level, learned the lessons, matured a little bit, and him coming out with Cass with a little more intelligence, a little more understanding, a little more perspective, which is what I felt we got from the interview with him, I think is going to be essential to AEW. And he sounds like a guy who's a locker room guy. And that's important too when you're building a federation and promotion like they are in AEW. So I'd love to see that. Plus, no offense to Big Cass, but Big Cass ain't going to excite people when he walks out in the ring. It isn't. It's Enzo on the mic that elevates what Cass can do 100%. Someone said it wasn't a real Philly street fight because no one was shot and no hair and no weaves were pulled.
There was no cheesesteak.
I respect that comment. The Undisputed Elite, there were just too many men in the ring. That ring was way too small for all those dudes. So I enjoyed the match, but I was just like, what the? At some point, my eyes just glossed over because like I don't fucking care. Just let them win already. You know, I know what the result's going to be. But the Scorpio Sky Sammy Guevara match was great. I really enjoyed it. Had a good time with it. When they pulled out the barbed wire, as I said, on the ladder, that was great. And the way it worked, where he threw Sammy onto that barbed wire off the top of the thing, off the top of that ladder, was perfect. Having the girls, the ladies on top of them as they climbed the ladder was really great. My only problem was the ending was just a slight bit flaccid. Why do you just push him off the ladder and then that's how you get the belt? It should have been some incredible move. Then you climb up the ladder and go get the belt. So it just seemed like an odd way to end it when it could have just ended with him being pushed onto the barbed wire ladder. That would have been the way to go rather than have Sammy just jump up to get hit and knocked down again. So, but overall, great to see Scorpio Sky. And the fans were really behind him, which I think is a good thing for Scorpio Sky at this stage in his career. As Aaron mentioned, he'd only wrestled twice in like the calendar year or some shit. Yeah. So this is great for him. Aaron, what stood out for you from Dynamite?
Ethan Page heel turn coming, and it's long overdue, man. Ethan Page has been kind of flying under the radar. Like, they gave Scorpio the push out of the Men of the Year group. I think they've realized that was not the way to go. So now Scorpio and the TNT title can do their thing because he's a great athlete and should be a champion. Sammy Guevara, you know my thoughts. Hi, I'm Sammy Guevara. Welcome to Jackass. Like, it's just unnecessary. Like, I think as I get like, when I was at my friend's house watching Jeff Hardy at WrestleMania 2000 or whatever, jumping off that ladder onto Bubba Ray Dudley, I was like, this is awesome. And like when Shane McMahon fell off the scaffolding, when Steve Blackman hit him and he fell into the, it's like, this is great. And now as an older person, I'm just like, oh shit. Like, looks awful. Yeah. Like, I don't know how you watch like Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, like walking backstage, like very gingerly. And you're like, no, I don't want to be like that. Like, so I don't know how you see it. I'm 36. I played football and baseball like my entire life. And I have like I'm starting to get like arthritis in my hands and my feet, and it's fucking miserable. So I can't understand what he would go through. But anyway, moving on from that, Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, I'm going to say something controversial. There is nobody on this earth that should have loved this match more than me, and I did. But I'm telling you, if I wanted to watch Bret Hart versus Owen Hart from WrestleMania 10, I'd just go fucking watch it. I don't need you to redo it for me.
Wow.
I got it. Like, if you want to
steal this and drop it real quick.
If you want to steal the finish,
woo,
like the roll-up finish, you can do that. If you want to do a spot or two from that, you can do that. Like, that's a fine homage. Wow. But like every single segment was like copy and pasted from a Bret Owen or a Bret and Benoit match. I'm just like, okay, guys, like, I get it. It's the Owen Hart tournament. We're showing love to Owen Hart and the Hart family, but it's like, that's enough. We get it. You love Bret Hart. So do I. I have a whole wall of Bret Hart stuff. I get it. Anyway.
No, I think it's a strong point to make, man. Yeah,
it was just a bit much. Serena Deeb, if she and Rosa are next, I'm really excited for that. Like, I can't. That's good. Like, that's something we didn't talk about. Like, it only takes like one good match to get me excited for the women's division, and that would be one of them. Serena Deeb versus Thunder Rosa. Hell yeah. Yeah. The point that you make, Chris, about Wardlow, I think is very good. Where you talk about he's fighting all these giants, and it's like why would he run through? Like, he'll just run through MJF. I think what's going to happen. And it may happen this week, and it's an easy fix. Let's say that Wardlow's got the edge on Big Cass, and he's going to pick him up for a power bomb, and he does it, and he like goes to do it again. He does it again, and then he goes to do it for a third time, and he like looks over at MJF, and he's like smiling. And when he goes to pick up Cass for the power bomb, he fucking blows out his leg, and he goes, oh shit, his leg, and he can't, like, he's hurt now. So now MJF's like, all right, well, next week, pal, recover quickly because it's me versus you. And now MJF has the advantage because Wardlow got a little too cocky, and now he's hurt, and now MJF has an advantage. Or the playing field's level now to where Wardlow cannot use that power bomb because he cannot lift his leg to do it. So I think that's how you can get around that a little bit. But I like everything that they're doing with Wardlow and MJF. I think it's very intriguing. It could have been such a throwaway considering how good Punk and MJF feud was, but it's been really, really good. The Undisputed Elite stuff, it's too much. Like you said, it's just too much. Too many people in the ring. I did want to say about Rampage, Jade Cargill and the Baddies are an actual faction now. Like I said they would be. So here we go, Kiera Hogan and Red Velvet in an actual faction. I think that's great. I think that's great for Jade. I do see Mark Sterling, though, as her manager, kind of getting pushed out. Like, I don't see where he fits with Jade anymore. I think having Kiera and Red Velvet there to bounce stuff off of is going to be great for her. And I think that's awesome. So AEW, I think it was a great show this week. I really do.
Okay. All right, cool. Someone is saying in the chat that there might be new WWE releases happening right now. I don't know if that's, I'm looking right now on Twitter or internet. I can't see anything yet. So if it is happening, we'll report it here real quick. As we go through these last few super chats and Streamlabs here. King Dingling says WWE needs to stop saying budget cuts. It's just an absurd notion coming from a company taking Saudi blood money. It turns fans like me closer to AEW. Yeah, I mean, his budget cuts just a bullshit like creative differences or exhaustion,
It's corporate speak.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think we've all worked at a corporate job before. It's just corporate bullshit. It's corporate speak.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Then John Alexander says, how about the baddie section? Also, is Red Velvet a heel now?
Yes, she is. And she has really stepped up her Twitter game and has really started going after people, and it's been fun to watch.
Okay. Thoughts on that, Chris? Red Velvet going heel?
Into it. The only thing I wish more of in modern pro wrestling is when we get the explanation for the change of attitude. Sometimes people just turn heel and like, I'm evil now. Whoa. And it's like, okay, well, why are you evil? You know what I mean? Like, just a little like, oh, Jade, help me, realize that I was doing, to give me the generic one. Yeah. I was doing it for the fans and you guys didn't love whatever, anything, just not a random, all of a sudden I don't like you guys. Fuck, it is what it is.
That's fair. Okay. Justin Toner says, one more thing. What the fuck is WWE doing changing one of the best matches Backlash had, the unification tag team title match between RK Bro and the Usos, to a 6-man with Roman and Drew involved and no title stakes? Unless this becomes a winner-take-all match, it makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about SmackDown, but that was something that they did. It was supposed to be RK Bro versus the Usos, straight up unification bout. My guess is that Roman is still a little bit hurt.
So they're taking care of him a little bit?
They're taking care of Roman a little bit, and they didn't want Drew McIntyre. They also didn't want Drew McIntyre to lose outright so soon. That's my guess.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think you're 100% right. I think they're trying to protect Roman, and they're still trying to protect McIntyre. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, do it all at once, and they don't give a shit about the tag team titles anyway. So it's just kind of like, all right, fine, we'll just throw them in there. Nobody will care that we promised them a unification match, and that was the big storyline going into it. They'll never main event pay-per-view with a tag team title match because they would never give it that kind of respect. So here it is.
Yeah, that's what's funny about it. It's like the past 2 or 3 weeks on Raw and SmackDown, like the main event has centered around the tag team titles, and it's like they don't give a fuck about these titles. Like that's like centering it around the United States title. Like, no offense to Theory, but it's like no one gives a fuck about that title, dude. Like, eat.
All right, fair point. And Roberto Arsenal saying, I'm loving how this Undisputed Elite storyline is also taking place in the Owen Cup. Someone will get screwed over. I can't predict the winner from either the men's or women's side, and that's the sign of a good tournament. Darby versus Swerve was great.
I did catch the highlights of Darby versus Swerve. It was good. It was good, and I'm glad to see that Swerve is actually getting some good stuff. But unfortunately for him, it's on Rampage, and I don't think we've talked a lot about Rampage on this show and how we feel about it. But I just think, and I know Tony said he was going to work on making Rampage better, but it's just not event television for me. Like, I don't have to tune into it right away. Like Dynamite, I have to tune into because I feel like I'm missing it. It's like the only show each week, WWE NXT or WWE or AEW, that I need to catch live because I feel like I'm going to miss something. Rampage, SmackDown, Raw, NXT, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. So it's just one of those shows.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Orange Cassidy bit that he did with what's his name, Sinem Singh or whatever his name is. I didn't mind that. I thought that was funny, and then it just kind of went off from there for Rampage. But it's the Danhausen hook thing. That's what everyone's waiting on.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, once it happens, I think we're going to be ready to go for that for sure. Don't. I'm just going to have my chin.
You're cursed.
The people are waiting for it. So
stop having hook talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we know. I get that he's only saying a couple things every now and again, but no, he doesn't need to talk right now. There's no it's killing the mystique. Don't say anything.
Right.
Did you guys see the video that somebody put together of Danhausen and Hook, but to the tune of My Way. Like they did Stone Cold and The Rock. It's fucking amazing. I'll have to find it and share it.
Oh my God.
It's incredible, dude. It's incredible. And it fits.
Really? I gotta see.
I mean, Danhausen stomped on his bag of potato chips. You don't do that. You don't do that.
There's a fun little 17-second video where they're sharing chips from behind the scenes. It's hilarious.
No, I don't want to see that.
Those guys are great.
No, I don't want to see that.
So, what is Clay? Clay, what are you doing? Yeet? Is that okay? Okay.
Clay's saying yeet.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, and anything to talk about with SmackDown or Raw? I mean, we saw
Ronda killed Shotzi.
Yeah, with Shotzi, Ronda take that. It was as stupid as we thought it was going to be. That, in my opinion, the timing thing, and also seeing Cody Rhodes involved in that melee of all those dudes in there, just getting lost in that was kind of boring. And then Liv, of course, attacking Rhea. I don't know, man. I mean, Rhea, she's got to get through with this damn program, and then hopefully get that push to go for the title somewhere, for God's sakes. It was ridiculous. So any thoughts on either one real quick?
Yeah, I thought SmackDown was like so whatever. I was checking in. Well, I was at the fucking Hollywood Bowl, and then I was like, you're gonna give me a reason to not pay attention to whatever Dave Chappelle is doing.
Yeah,
you gotta be better than this.
I was at a Halloween themed bar last night.
Oh,
and
nice.
My wife was upset because we got there and we went for a friend's birthday. And outside is a wheel, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to spin this wheel because you get like free shot or whatever?" So, yeah, sure, whatever. Spin the wheel, and of course, I'm horrible with luck, so I don't gamble. Mm-hmm. And I landed on double cover charge.
Ooh.
And I was like, "Huh?" And they actually charged us double cover. It's like, what the fuck is this place? But anyway, yeah, that was me last night. So I didn't watch SmackDown yet. Sorry.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, I watched some last. It wasn't that big of a deal. So yeah, and I didn't think Raw was that great either. I mean, it's clear that they're that Roman is hurt, and they're giving the Russos much more to do to kind of cover
the Russos, bro. Vince Russo in a tag team with himself? No,
I'm gonna fight next with my twin brother, Empire Fan.
Brother.
Do you think when Braun Breaker goes to the main roster, they'll change his name to Braun Steiner? Oh God! Now that the Steiner brothers are in the Hall of Fame,
yep, 1000%.
I don't like Braun Steiner.
Why? That's his name.
So what? I don't like Terry Bollea. That's his name. I like Hulk Hogan.
Well, his real name's Bronson Rex Steiner, but I mean that's Braun Steiner.
I like Rex Steiner. They can
change it. They can change it to Rex Steiner.
Bronson Steiner's a good name, even. But Braun Steiner, there's only one Braun. He plays in the NBA, though. All right. I think that's it. Anything more to touch on? We've got no other Streamlabs or Super Chat. So
you don't the Big Red Machine cameo this week. That was unexpected.
Right, Go ahead. Yeah.
That was quite unexpected. I mean, it was just, like a quick little thing with Ezekiel, but
don't look at his tweets.
Yeah. If you ignore the tweets, I don't know. Kane makes me smile. I like Kane. I've always liked Kane.
Seems like a decent fellow, other than his tweets. You're right.
I've always thought he was severely underrated because he's done so many shitty gimmicks. The Isaac Yankem, the fake Diesel, and it's like, Kane, how was that going to work with being the Undertaker's brother? Worked pretty fucking well. So good for him.
He could have washed out completely. And certainly,
absolutely.
Mark has absolute respect for him, too, for making that work for both of them. And so it's true. You got to, by extension, you kind of got to like Kane because of that. So, and the funny stuff with him and Daniel Bryan and him. I mean, I still remember the great segment with him and The Rock and Hogan backstage, which he's like, it doesn't matter what you think. It was just
Canaanites.
The Canaanites. Oh, another super chat flew in.
Oh, did it? Okay. All right. This is from Hyman John, who says, if the Brian Pillman gun segment happened today, what would the reaction be? Ooh, Jesus. Why are you asking that?
I hate to make it political, but Republicans would love it, and everybody else would say, oh, my God. If it happened in Florida, it would be legal. Stand your ground, son.
So, yeah, true. Very true.
It's hard to say. I mean, it would not happen today without every sponsor ever pulling from Raw and SmackDown.
So true.
Oh Lord, I mean, come on now. I mean, there was a slap at the Oscars, and
Yeah.
he was gonna pull a gun on a pro wrestling program. Come on,
It'd be no good.
That slap sent Amy Schumer to therapy. Like, what would happen if Pillman pulled a gun?
Sure it did. Aaron World Order saying Kane is cool, but Glenn, no. Oh, I like that. Okay,
Fair.
Kane,
Yeah,
yes.
that's true. That's
Glenn
good.
Jacobs, no. All
Yeah.
right, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I like
I'm
that.
down with that. All right, let's get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching this live episode of Strong Style here today. We appreciate your fun times in the chat. The chat's always lively, and all the Streamlabs and SuperChats you send and support everything we do here on the Outlaw Nation and Strong Style for sure. Aaron Turner, another fun show. Where can they find you, my brother?
On Twitter at only Aaron Turner, on TikTok at strong_style_live. Just posted another TikTok, my reaction to the NXT releases. Over 10,000 views in less than a day. Thank you all so much. We just crossed the 700 follower threshold on TikTok.
Wow.
So
Wow.
appreciate the support there. Keep following us there for that great content.
That's awesome. And you're doing great work on that, Aaron. Absolutely. A lot of funny videos for sure. A lot of great videos as well. Chris Burns, the Dark Attack, where can they find you, my man?
at Chris, please, if you want to see why I'm not sleeping until May 9th.
There you go.
That's right. All those Netflix is a joke festival. It's happening. And as for me, you can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. Where else? Oh, yeah. And I'll be doing possibly a live show tomorrow night if I don't get into the Top Gun Maverick premiere to talk about everything that went on at CinemaCon this past week in Vegas. I'm just barely recovering today. It was a lot with about 4 to 5 hours of sleep every night. It was crazy. So I definitely want to talk about it. So probably tomorrow night if I don't get into that premiere. So other than that, got great stuff coming up here over the next few days. And of course, the Moon Knight episode 5 spoiler reviews up now from the Geek Buddies for you guys to watch there on on this YouTube channel. So there you go. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another live episode of Strong Style. Have a great weekend. Peace.